weighty allegations of possible political interference in the conduct of the 2023 election surfaces as Coalition of United Political Parties claims plots to oust the INEC chairman and stop the use of BVAS. Labour Party unveils its Presidential Campaign Council, 2 lists with a total of 1,270 members. Well, their task is to deliver at least 15 million votes for Mr. Peter Obi and his running mate, Dati Ahmed. Well, hello and welcome to the program. I'm Kaido Kikulu here in Lagos. Tonight, time is of the essence. There's so much going on in the nation's political space as always, and it is of utmost importance that you are made fully aware of those issues as they are. No colorations, no twists or slants. Now, some major allegations were made today pointing accusing fingers at some prominent politicians and their party. The claims are centered around alleged plans to stop the use of the bimodal voter accreditation system, which we know as BVAS, for the 2023 election, and even went as far as alleging plans to remove the chairman of INEC and other national commissioners. Now, these are really weighty allegations that demand a lot of interrogation, and we'll be doing that tonight. How do we secure our electoral process from political interference? That will be a major talking point on the program tonight. But first, let's tell you that the Labour Party has released the list of its Presidential Campaign Council. After weeks of anticipation, the party today unveiled the 1,234-member council, headed by retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Mohammed Zarewa as the chairman. Now, 2 lists were released by the party today. One contained the campaign council members, where the party's candidates and the running mate were included, headed by AIG Zarewa, while the other list is called the Campaign Management Team. Now, that's a much smaller team, by the way, with 36 members. So if you put that together, 1,234 with 36 members, you get 1,270 in all. Now, this 36-member management team is to be headed by Dr. Donyo Kukwe as a Director General, essentially retaining his position. He's to be assisted by Mr. Seloka Abaze, amongst others. Now, at the unveiling ceremony during a press conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, the Director General of the Campaign Council, Dr. Donyo Kukwe, was optimistic that the presidential candidate of the party, Mr. Peter Obi, will get at least 15 million votes, as he claims that 80% of new voters were supporters of the Labour Party. Now, Dr. Kukwe also described the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party as expired commodities with defective structures. So the Labour Party has put forward its team, and there are questions about the general acceptability of this list within the party. I should also mention that there may be some controversy here and there, but we'll get to that. But first, let's get you acquainted with other major political stories for the day. Here's a political roundup.
The Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Donyo Kukwe, says those who think that the Labour Party has only social media supporters would be in for a surprise at the polls in 2023. Mr. Kukwe, who addressed journalists shortly after the party announced the 1,234-member campaign council in Abuja, asserts that over 80% of all new voters in the forthcoming general elections are supporters of the Labour Party. Donyo Kukwe is appointed as the Director General of the Labour Party Campaign Council, alongside the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Zarewa, as the chairman.
This is the time we are prepared for. We cannot afford to fail. God and providence is with us, as you can see.
Youth under the aegis of the PDP New Generation have staged a solidarity walk for Atiku Okowa as President and Vice President in the 2023 election, saying that the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate remains a unifier and the best among candidates contesting the election. The youths drawn from the 20 local government areas of the state walked along major streets in the state capital to drum support for the PDP presidential candidate. They note that with the experience of Atiku Abubakar, he has the ability to pull the country out of the current socio-economic and political challenges which has slowed down growth and development. While calling for active youth participation in politics for a better Nigeria, the forum challenged the younger generation to rise and walk against the tide and vote massively for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar for unity, equity and progress.
Here to show support to the Atiku Kowa ticket is a combo that we believe will take Nigeria out of the doldrum.
Opposition political parties in Nigeria under the aegis of Coalition of United Political Parties are raising alarm over an alleged plot to stop electronic transmission of the 2023 election results and deactivate the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS from the INEC server during the 2023 general election. Addressing a joint news conference in Abuja, the spokesman of the coalition, Mr. Jega, says there is immense pressure on the leadership of INEC to deactivate the BVAS from the server and the plot by some governors to cause a leadership change in the electoral management body, which will consume the top officials, including the chairman and a few national commissioners who are insisting on the use of the BVAS. The opposition coalition, however, announced plans to petition the United Kingdom High Commission and the United States Embassy and alert them of the alleged new conspiracy which threatens the Nigerian electoral process and regional stability, while urging them to keep vigilant eyes on the process as development partners.
CUPP and heads of political associations have intercepted intelligence of an alleged fresh plot against the 2023 general election, and this time being coordinated by leading figures of the ruling APC.
The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has given the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, the go-ahead to prosecute a former Minister of Aviation, Senator Stella Odua, before Justice Nyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja. The senator, representing Anambra North Senatorial District, is to be arraigned on a 25-count charge alongside 8 other defendants. Odua and her co-accused have not been able to take their plea because of an application by one of the defense lawyers, Ogu Onoja, asking the court not to go on with the plea taking. Onoja had told the court that there was a petition to the Attorney General of the Federation in respect of the charge. However, the AGF finally gave his approval for the trial of Odua and other co-defendants after studying the case file. The EFCC lawyer informed the court that the agency had concluded investigation on the matter and is now ready for the commencement of trial. Consequently, Justice Ekwo subsequently adjourned to February the 13th to the 17th, 2023 for arraignment and accelerated hearing of the case. More supporters come in the way of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the Progressive Sisters Network and all-female support group pledged to mobilize massive support for their candidate. Speaking in Abuja at the launch of the group, the national coordinator, Ms. Rinshola Abiola, says that Tinubu Shetima ticket presents the greatest hope of equity for Nigerian women based on their track records as former governors. The group adds that the policies of Senator Tinubu will not be repressive, as it will be fair to all Nigerians.
Our foremost aim at this moment is to contribute our quota to mobilizing women's votes for our father, leader, and presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his running mate, Senator Kashim Shettima.
And now to the big story. As you may have seen earlier, opposition political parties in Nigeria, under the aegis of Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, are raising the alarm over an alleged plot to stop electronic transmission of 2023 election results and deactivate the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, from the INEC server that's during the next election. And at that joint press conference in Abuja, the spokesman of the coalition, Mr. Jega, says that there is immense pressure on the leadership of INEC to deactivate the BVAS from the server, and a plot by some governors to cause a leadership change in the electoral management body, which they believe will consume top officials, including the chairman and a few national commissioners who are insisting on the use of the BVAS. Now, we have reached out to INEC, because this centers around INEC as well. What exactly is going on? Let us know. We've reached out to INEC for its reaction to these weighty allegations, and the Commission's spokesperson is yet to return our calls. But indeed, these are major allegations. Would politicians and parties go to the extent of compromising the sanctity of our election management process and voting in the 2023 elections? Big issues to raise. So let's get some answers tonight. Let's speak with politicians who are in the know, perhaps. We're joined on the program tonight by Mr. Lemona Onoja, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party. He joins us virtually, as well as Mr. Ayo Oyalowo, who is a member of the APC Campaign Council. Both of them, of course, join us virtually on the program tonight. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Politics Today.
Thank you for having us, Kaide.
Right, I'll begin with Mr. Oyalowo. I mean, these are weighty allegations against your party. It talks about your party, the Director General of the DSS, institutional intimidation, detaining workers. Very, very big allegations directed at your party. And I'd like to get your response first on those allegations, that is. Mr. Oyalowo, I believe you're speaking, but you need to unmute so we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Good evening once again. I believe those allegations were raised by some guy called Ikenga. He has done that over years, always making unfounded and irresponsible allegations. I believe if he has such intel like he claimed he does, I think the security agency should invite him over so that he can help them in their investigation, since he claimed he has such intelligence. I believe if people don't have something to do with their lives, that's when they jump around making unfounded and irresponsible allegations. I mean, we are facing a very crucial period where Nigerians are getting ready to elect new leadership over the course of the coming month. And we do not expect that Nigerians should take this as an opportunity to misbehave. I mean, get people to just confuse them, make irresponsible and spurious allegations. I mean, the same guy had made several unreasonable and unfounded allegations over the time, and none of them had ever been proven. So this is just one of those usual political jobbery things he does, and I think nobody should take him seriously. But however, if he thinks he has very serious allegations to make, there are proper channels to go about it, not a press conference and unnecessarily eating up the polity. Like the APC-led federal government was responsible from the House of the National Assembly to the presidency, was responsible for this new electoral law. Why will the party and the government push for new electoral law, get it signed, only to now go and sabotage it from the back? I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. It's hogwash, it's buncombe. It should be trash where exactly it belongs. That is the trash can.
Right. So just pointedly now, can you say on good authority that your party, the APC, its members are not planning to, have not, and perhaps will not interfere in the coming elections?
I mean, it's senseless to even consider it. That is not an issue for us. For the APC, it is about the election, doing what is right. The campaign council met today. The National Working Committee met with the campaign council, and we're deliberating on how to do some serious issues in terms of mobilizing voters, not jumping around, making spurious and irresponsible allegations. We will not dignify such things. I mean, under this current government, the APC had lost elections, fairly or otherwise, and we have let it be. So I don't know where this irresponsible allegation is coming from. I'm just trying to hold myself not to say things, but the allegation is irresponsible, and whoever is making it is actually irresponsible. And I think the security people need to get that person to come and help them with the investigation, since they claim they intercepted some intelligence according to them. So I think they should help the security agency. As for the APC, we don't know what they're talking about, and whatever they're saying is not our issue. Our issue is how to mobilize properly for the election and win the election fair and square.
Right, so let me bring in Mr. Ilemona Onoja of the People's Democratic Party. Now, you've said that the CUPP's statement must not be taken lightly, and you've even tried to give some explainers on social media of what the BIVAS is, what this alleged plan is all about. Is that the position of the PDP as well on this?
Hi, Coyote. First of all, we must clearly state that the APC has incentive to attempt to truncate the electoral process using all sorts of means, including foul means. The realization of every discerning Nigerian is that the only way the APC can win an election in this country is that the election is not free, fair, or credible. The APC is aware that in a free, fair, and credible election, on account of its terrible mismanagement and abominable misrule of the Federal Republic of Nigeria over the course of the last 7 years, it will lose an election. It is very clear. And so they have incentive to attempt to frustrate the electoral process. Now, before we even go into anything, anybody who attempts to deny that their efforts to truncate the electoral process and make sure that it is not free, fair, and credible is at the very least being mischievous and counting on maybe Nigerians not paying attention or maybe Nigerians being naive. It is for this reason that the president has repeatedly attempted and in some instances has succeeded to appoint well-known APC members or former or affiliated people to the APC into the electoral monitoring body. I mean, when you see a former governorship aspirant on the platform of APC in Sokoto State being appointed as a rec, when you see an aide to the president being appointed or nominated as a commissioner, they're obvious, very clear attempts to do so. Now, anybody who also says that there's not precedent for these sorts of things looks Nigerians in the face and tells a bold-faced lie. In 2019, we saw that in spite of the very clear, unambiguous provisions of the Constitution, we saw a Chief Justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who was considered by many in the APC fold as being an obstacle to their attempts to manipulate the 2019 electoral process. We saw him being removed on account of a motion ex parte and an order given by the Code of Conduct Tribunal, a body, a quasi-judicial body that under the provisions of our Constitution had absolutely no jurisdiction to entertain that sort of application. There is a clear precedent. And not only is there a clear precedent, there is a continuous concerted effort on behalf of the APC to attempt to infiltrate the electoral body, to lay complaints about the electoral processes and to attempt to subvert it. These things are known facts. They're happening in the public domain. And so for anybody to come and say that, no, it is not true or that they are mischievous, perhaps the person should look in the mirror and ask himself if he's the one being mischievous. Now, we will say the thing about CUPP raised certain questions today. Have there been mutilations to the voter register? It is clearly established. Not only is it established, INEC has come out publicly to say it is taking acknowledgement of those mutilations and that is in the process of cleaning up the voters register. That is an allegation, or that is a position about which CUPP raised an alarm and that is being addressed officially in the full glare of the national public.
Are you saying this mutilation as well is by the APC?
Well, they're the only people who have the incentive to do so. We believe in the PDP that given the opportunity to freely express their votes, their will through their votes, the Nigerian people cannot vote for what is statistically the worst government in our national history. They have an incentive to attempt to manipulate the will of the people. And I was going somewhere, let me also finish. The CUPP also raised allegations of INEC staff who have been arrested and have been detained in DSS custody, who have not been deprived access to their lawyers, have been deprived access to their families. Nobody is disputing this fact. Nobody is disputing the fact that INEC staff are being intimidated using the tools of state. To come out and say that such an allegation is mischievous, I mean, at some point, we have to show a commitment to the truth. And at this point, that's not the commitment to the truth.
Well, so far, it's been claims and counterclaims from all parties. Questions about evidence abound. And for Mr. Oyalowo, Mr. Nodja strongly believes that your party has incentive to actually carry out these claims. He's talked about the recent appointments, which was eventually, approved by the Senate of Commissioners for INEC. He's talked about some other points. But regarding this incentive, which he talked about, I wonder what your thoughts are.
Firstly, I want to believe the man speaking is supposed to be a lawyer. And I hope he understands that. I don't know the legal term, but when you make this kind of allegation publicly, I hope they understand the implication of making allegations that are unfounded like they are doing. But I hope everyone who should take care of this are listening. Because it's easy to come on TV and spew things when you know it is not the truth, but you just want to rally the truth, like a Trump. However, for someone who represents the PDP to call the APC the most irresponsible government, it's not just funny, it's sadistically sad. We inherited a country from these guys where people were sharing security allowances in this country. We inherited a country from these guys where 97% or 95% of our agricultural product or whatever we eat as a country was imported. We inherited a country from these guys where we have, today we are trying to clear it. Everyone remembers the P&ID, where their leaders in the PDP decide to give contracts to companies that have no background. And then what they wanted to do from the back is to share the entire foreign reserves of the country. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria just cleared another nonsense they did, which is their Jalkuta that they decide to sell to some other people. We inherited a country where these guys will sell our national assets to companies who have zero understanding of what they're buying, assets, strip everything, and gave Nigeria a completely terrible, what they call, they're selling public assets. And that was a Nigeria we inherited from them. So, and then for a PDP person to sit down, you can imagine that they must be working hand in hand with that Dikenga guy to create unnecessary war in the country. These guys are determined to cause enough chaos because they know they won't win the election anyway. So they rather throw the country into a civil war by making irresponsible, spurious allegations rather than understand the fact that Nigerians rejected them 8 years ago. And Nigeria will continue to reject a party that claims that we will no longer steal, but please give us another chance. That record is there. The PDP is not.
So this particular question I put to you, Mr. Oyalowo, is about the incentive you talked about. And with the emergence of a Labour Party, for example, and its candidate, your party is said to be threatened and even playing catch-up, essentially. We've seen those.
No, it's actually a beautiful thing that the Labour Party, it's a beautiful thing that we have the Labour Party candidate. You see, what the PDP does is what the PDP does. We have 4 leading. They call them leading, but there are 3 musketeers following the leading candidate, who is the APC candidate. You have Rabi Musa Kwankwaso from the PDP. You have Peter Obi, who was just 3 years ago the running mate to the PDP candidate. And then you have the perennial PDP candidate running under the banner of the PDP. So it's a good thing. Let them keep fighting themselves, making senseless and spurious allegations while we concentrate on talking to Nigerians and winning the election. It is good that these guys have shown Nigerians that, look, they don't have anything to offer. All they have to offer is make ballooning in terms of allegation. Talk without thinking, not thinking that, look, after election, we will have a country to build. They just want to cause chaos. Let them continue. We will deal with running an election, working with Nigerians, speaking to Nigerians, making them understand that despite all that is going on in international economy, the IMF still came out just yesterday to say Nigeria still has 3% growth rate next year, while every other country around us, including South Africa, is having either a contraction or they will not even have any growth rate at all.
Mr. Yalawa, so the question is quite simple. Are you threatened by the Labour Party? But don't forget as well, your running mate was in the PDP. The running mate of your party was in the PDP as well. So it looks like the PDP flows through all of these parties, as it were.
Exactly. So we are not threatening. They will share themselves, their votes. See, it's a good thing that all of them are PDP. So when we have PDP 1, PDP light 2. So it's all PDP for us. So let them continue to make nonsense noise all over the place. We are not worried. We're not threatening. We don't even reckon with them because they failed when they're in power. They failed as opposition and they will continue to fail because an opposition that does not even understand opposition does not know what his job is. And for us, those are people that should not be bothered ourselves. We should not bother ourselves about.
So this conversation is largely about the election management process. Yes, I mean, from time to time, have these statements. Yes, Claire, I'll bring you in, Mr. Onoja, but just to say that it's about the election management, you know, showing Nigerians that indeed your party, APC, PDP, are for credible, free, fair elections, such that Nigerians can go for elections without any fear of manipulations and all of that. So this is meant to establish, corroborate, or what have you, those claims that were made by the CPP. So, Mr. Onoja, you were saying earlier on that, I mean, the APC has incentives. The APC says, well, they are not intimidated or anything. But
Kayode,
what are your thoughts about those points?
Kayode,
yeah.
Kayode, let's just go straight to the point. If it is the APC that is appointing APC members into the electoral body. It is the APC that does not have a history of a peaceful transfer of power. It is the APC that has a history of illegally and unconstitutionally removing a Chief Justice of the Federation from office. Even the military never did such a thing. When I hear the APC rep come on television and repeat a word as if though he just learned it, it baffles me. Our country has never been this poor. Our people have never been this poor. Our people have never lacked access to education on this level. We have never lacked access to healthcare on this level. We have never been this insecure. We have never been this unemployed. The record levels of youth unemployment have never been seen in this country before. At the moment, several states of our country are submerged underwater and flooding. We haven't even as much as heard a peep from the federal government. The person in question, who is saying that people are saying what we don't know, once came on this same show and said an increase in VAT will not translate to affecting the quality of lives of the ordinary Nigerian. It therefore begs the question if he even knows what he's talking about. When he comes here and he says that the APC isn't demonstrating a market determination to truncate our electoral process. There is no basis statistically, and these statistics aren't mine. They are global statistics from globally approved and acceptable sources, that this is the worst government in our national history. And then to come here and make fallacious claims. Let me tell you something. Within 3 years, and this is statistic, you can go and check it, Mr. Oyalowo, within 3 years of the return of Nigeria to democracy, we were talking 15% growth per annum within 3 years. President Muhammadu Buhari, that you supported, has said in public that for the 16 years that PDP was in power, we averaged 7% GDP growth per year. For you to come on national television and try to wave 3% GDP growth as though it's some sort of achievement, my goodness, shouldn't we feel embarrassment and shame? Shouldn't we be able to accept underperformance? Shouldn't we say, oh my goodness, we haven't done this well? There is vast parts of our country that have been ceded to terrorists, where they are collecting taxes from farms. And you're coming here to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. In a normal society, you'll be lampooned ordinarily. But coming back to the topic, the APC has shown a determination to ensure that we don't have free, fair, and credible elections. That's the reason why, as recently as this month, you're trying to put APC members in the electoral monitoring body. It is because you don't have confidence in your ability to deliver, to win elections. So you want to manipulate the process. It's very clear.
Well, Mr. Noja, I mean, the Senate approved the nominations that you speak about. And in the Senate, there are members of the PDP there as well. Why not raise this?
Let me take a vote, and I'll quickly address that. That the Senate approved it doesn't mean that there were no dissensions from other people. The provisions of the Electoral Act and the Constitution gives the power of appointment to a simple majority. If APC has that simple majority and they have the incentive to be able to manipulate the electoral process, of course the Senate is going to approve it. This is the most underperforming, this is the most underwhelming, this is the most
Mr. Noja,
simply.
I mean, for the sake of Nigerians, are you going to leave it at that? Pardon me, are you going to leave it at that? I mean, there are other ways to seek redress. Is your party going to fold its arms and allow what you say is impunity go on?
I think that my party is considering a wide variety of options, including, of course, redress to the judiciary. In Imo State, and this is one of the issues that that was raised in that press conference. In Imo State, there's already a suit filed challenging the use of beavers for the elections. It is very noteworthy that the Imo State governor is one of the people who was named as spearheading the charge against the electoral monitoring body. So in Imo State, there's already a suit there. But the party is considering a wide variety of options, including approaching the courts to make sure that we protect the sanctity of the electoral process. If we need to come out onto the streets to hold solidarity marches and to hold marches that draw attention, not just of the rest of the country, but potentially of the whole world, to the manipulations that are happening in the public glare. You know, the funny thing about it is how this magic of something is happening and you're trying to wish it away, and you're saying it isn't happening, and you're saying people should not believe that it's happening. Something that is happening in our presence. When we say INEC, APC members are being nominated into INEC, it is not a mistake. It is happening. It is not a lie.
Mr. Oyalowo, we're wrapping up in 2 minutes. So let's allow Mr. Oyalowo
arrested and detained. It is not a lie.
All right. So let's allow Mr. Oyalowo come in here. Mr. Noja, pardon me, just because of time, we're due for break in 2 minutes. So, Mr. Oyalowo, interestingly, the Imo State governor's name keeps coming up. It's come up yet again. And I mean, this is at the heart of your party itself. The allegations keep coming, and it looks like you can't just do enough to wait them away.
Quickly, let me correct a mistake you made here. Senator Kasim Shettima was never in the PDP. He was in the AAPP, then the ANPP that merged with the APC. He was never in the PDP. We need to correct that quickly.
Thank God he was never in the PDP.
And as for the issue about the governor of Imo State, like you rightly said, if they have any issue against him, they should go to court instead of making noise all over the media. And then for a party that is claiming they made 7% growth, 15% growth, when they left power, 27 states could not pay salary. President Buhari had to come and pay salary. They said they made 15% growth. The 15% growth, they spent $16 billion. There is no power. We're in darkness. They saw power coming to their friends. These guys are jokers. Nigerians, look at them. This man came on TV to tell us 17% growth. 17% growth, where? Where are the jobs? All the industries, companies that I knew growing up left Nigeria to Ghana and other places. When I was growing, we have a lot of foreign companies that have established here. PDP sold both our national assets to themselves, assets stripped it, ensured that nothing is on ground. When President Buhari took over, 27 states needed bailout to pay their salaries, and they are telling Nigerians about 7% growth. The companies that they sold to themselves, the staffs were left to die in hunger, from Nigerian Airways to NIPOST to every of them. President Buhari is the one who finally paid their backlog of gratuity. So if they're talking about shame, PDP is an example, an embodiment, a characteristic of shame, and anyone supporting them should be ashamed of themselves. So if they have issue against Governor Hope Uzodinma, like you rightly said, they should go to court, not going around making noise in the media. They are just afraid of the man because they have nothing against him. All they can do is to make noise, shout, but go to court, they will not. You cannot solve any issue in the media. You can only make noise. If you have any issue against somebody, go to court. This is a civilized society. This is not a jungle. Go to court, sue him, prove that something is wrong, and let the judiciary decide. This same party that removed Justice Salami for doing the right thing is talking about the justice who is actually deemed to be corrupt, who had to beg for his life so that he can live. But today, they are repackaging it as if something happened. I mean, the PDP should never come to the air and talk about equity because their hands are never clean.
Right. Well, apologies for that. That will be the national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Adamu, not the running mate. So thank you for that, Mr. Yalawo. So back to Mr. Onoja now. We have a few minutes to extend this conversation. And I want Nigerians maybe to have a reference point. So let's quickly hear from the CUPP spokesperson. Just hear a bit of what he said. So we wrap up on the point. Again, this is about ensuring that Nigerians have confidence in our electoral process and be able to go out and vote on that day knowing that there is no interference whatsoever. So let's listen to that and then we'll wind down this conversation.
The chairman of Nigerian political parties, opposition coalition CUPP, and heads of political associations have intercepted intelligence of an alleged fresh plot against the 2023 general election, and this time being coordinated by leading figures of the ruling APC governors, led by a Southeast APC governor with controversial past, and another from the Northwest, who are working with their colleagues to perfect a plot to intimidate INEC leadership into abandoning the use of electronic transmission and upload of election results to the INEC server, deactivation of the BVAS machine from INEC server, and the creation of crisis of confidence based on trump-up charges that will lead to the removal of top officials of the Electoral Commission, including the INEC chairman, Prof. Mahmoud, and other national commissioners who are insisting on the use of BVAS for the 2023 election and the irreversible use of electronic transmission of results.
Right, so Mr. Onoja, that's what was made. I've not been able to establish if that is the position of the People's Democratic Party going into this election, but what would your party be doing if indeed it supports these claims? What are you doing as we wind down?
Well, the claims are made today. The party, if we support these claims, and it's worthy to note that there was a PDP member who was a part of that press conference, at least 2 PDP members. So if the claims are substantiated, and we're, like I said earlier, we're assessing options. Options include going to court to go and ensure that as much as possible, the right of the Nigerian people to come out and freely cast their votes in favor of whoever they so desire is protected. The party has a history of commitment to free, fair, and credible elections, which is the only reason why President Muhammadu Buhari won the elections in 2015. The party has a history of trusting the judicial process and going to courts for the determination of issues relating to the constitutionality of our processes. The party will again approach the courts if we so determine. But all right. Also, as part
Mr. Onoja,
of our constitutional rights,
we've extended well enough.
On this note, okay, quickly. Very briefly on this note, as part of our constitutional rights is the freedom of thought, conscience, and expression, the freedom of speech, the ability to look at government in the face and say what you're doing is wrong. The Constitution gives us the right to be able to speak up. Of course, Mr. Oyalawa will not know that, seeing as he supports a dictator that seeks to clamp down.
So let's get his final words on this one.
That your party did not pay. your dad worked with which organization? Who paid his pension?
Bringing my father into a
gentlemen,
conversation.
let us stay away from personal attacks. We will not have that on this show. No personal attacks, no expletives whatsoever. We'll stay with the issues. And the issues are based on this election management process. Let's not try to be incendiary here. So, Mr. Oyalawo, final words from you. What is the promise? Look to Nigerians and tell them from your party the promise you're making for the coming elections.
Our promise to Nigeria is that the election will be free and fair. President Muhammadu Buhari has every opportunity he has spoken about the fact that he wants to bequeath on Nigeria a legacy of free and fair election. And we saw the electoral act that he signed. Unlike what happened when President Obasanjo was leaving and the road result, even the beneficiary of that election, the late President Muhammadu Yar'Adua himself had to say he's ashamed of the election that brought him to power. Unlike that, President Buhari will do for Nigerians what he has promised, which is to bequeath on Nigerians, to Nigeria, in an election that is free and fair and credible.
All right, gentlemen, again, just to point out that we'll keep this clean. Subsequent conversations ensure that we do not have personal attacks. Okay, so Mr. Oyalawo.
Accepted. It was a completely out of line comment. Your apology is not accepted.
Well, gentlemen, perhaps we'll be gentlemanly enough to take this behind the scenes and ensure that we don't do this in public. Gentlemen.
Your apology is not accepted.
Gentlemen, all right. We can judge, but we shouldn't war. This is politics, and it's for the good of our nation. So, gentlemen, we'd like to thank you so much for your time on the program. We've been speaking with Mr. Lemona Onoja, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party, as well as Mr. Ayo Yalawo, who is a member of the APC's Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Politics. Well, when we return, we'll speak with a man who has superintended elections in Nigeria. On the election, Professor Tahiru Jega is our next guest tonight. Please stay with us. Well, welcome back to the program. Elections are the very bedrock of our democracy. Not just elections, but credible, free, and fair elections. It's 135 days and exactly 12 hours to the 2023 presidential elections, and concerns about the management of the election are being raised. Let's speak with our guest tonight. He's a man who knows about the intricacies of election management in Nigeria. In fact, the man who has actually organized and overseen two major elections in our country. Professor Tahiru Jega is a former chairman of INEC. He retired in June 2015. He's also former vice chancellor of Bayero University, Kano. He joins us virtually on the program tonight. Good evening, Professor, and it's good to see you again.
Good evening, and Kayode, thank you for having me on your program.
Right. Well, Prof, following those allegations raised today by the CUPP, I don't know, for you, do you have any doubts in your mind about INEC delivering a credible election next year, devoid of any infiltration, intimidation, whatsoever?
Kayode, as we get closer to the elections, all sorts of things happen. Either out of desperation or out of mischief making. And I think the challenge for the Electoral Commission and for all of us citizens who want to see elections with integrity is to remain focused on what INEC is supposed to do, what it is doing, and how we can all complement what the Electoral Commission is doing for successful elections. You see, I think somebody said a long time ago that anything is possible in our country. So we cannot just wish away these kinds of allegations when they are being made. But frankly, these allegations are not things we hear from INEC itself. So until INEC begins to complain that these kinds of things are happening, its constitutional mandate of delivering on free, fair, and credible elections, I don't think we should put a lot of weight to this. But as I said, anything is possible. Politicians can be use of technology scares many politicians, and they get afraid that their traditional methods of rigging elections, by the value that use of technology would bring to the process. But again, those politicians who are desperate and who do this, frankly, cut across all political parties. The election to have integrity, to be free and fair, across all political parties, particularly the dominant political parties. There are people who are also desperate and reckless.
Oh dear.
Won by hook or by crook.
Right, Prof. Looks like we keep losing tiny bits of what you were saying from time to time, perhaps connection issues. But the question then will be, if INEC is really hurting, if INEC is going through things, who would INEC cry to? I imagine that it's really rare for INEC to come out and say, well, indeed, this is going on, this is where it's hurting. I mean, it's rare for that to happen. But in terms of political interference, having been inside, how susceptible really, or otherwise, is INEC to these possible manipulations, interference, intimidation, maybe? How susceptible, in fact, with the newly established law, or the new Electoral Act, how susceptible is INEC?
As I pointed, the closer you get to elections, the more that desperation shows. And while I am not lending any credibility to what has been alleged, frankly, from my own experience, we saw how close to the election some politicians became afraid that using the card reader was going to stop rigging the election using their own methods, and so they came out and at a point even started demanding publicly for me to either resign or to what they called terminal leave, so that I didn't have to supervise the conduct of the 2015 general elections. Is there, and they will try to exhibit it. I think what is most important is the capacity of the election management body to resist that pressure, and having recognized that using technology will add value, to just remain focused and to attract them from using the beavers as well as deploying the electronic transmission of results, because they now have a legal backing to be able to do that.
Some have pointed to the recent appointment, nomination of commissioners for INEC. Does that raise a red flag for you as well?
Well, obviously, the more impartial and non-partisan electoral commissioners are, the better for the commission in terms of discharging its responsibilities without fear or favor, in terms of delivering peaceful and credible elections. So obviously, any time commissioners or resident electoral commissioners are nominated, and there are allegations of partisanship, it is very, very important for the National Assembly, particularly the Senate Committee and the Senate itself, to thoroughly interrogate all of those allegations and to be able to ensure that the people that they endorse are really people who have the credibility and the non-partisan disposition to discharge this responsibility. So I think before the Senate approved this current nomination of resident electoral commissioners, there have been allegations of some of them being either partisan or working very close with the incumbent government and so on and so forth. Recently, I had chairman of the committee, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, that screened these candidates, who said very definitively that they had done a thorough investigation together with security agencies, and that they are satisfied that the people that they recommended to Senate and who I understand have now been screened and passed, he said that they are satisfied that the allegations of their partisanship and the other things are superiors. One can only hope that that is the case.
Right.
Certainly, in terms of the nomination, both by the president and the screening by the Senate, it is very, very important to ensure that those who are recommended and who are screened are actually non-partisan, because
right.
that is the only way that perceptions cannot be brought by citizens or other parties in order to undermine the integrity of the process.
Well, Prof, as we wind down in about a minute, I want to let you go without talking politics. Are you still a member of the PRP?
Yes, I'm a very active member of the PRP.
And I mean, one wonders the chances of your party in the coming elections. Over time, we've seen that essentially two parties share the large chunk of the votes, with the others sharing just, what, about 3% or thereabout of the remaining votes. So really, is there value in having as much as 18 presidential candidates when it's said that just about 4 of them are the major candidates, the frontliners?
Definitely, Coyote. You have to understand that politics is about choices. And the more choices citizens have as voters, the better. Our only hope is that they will choose the right kind of people. And so our party is in politics for the long haul. It is not just a matter of 2023 general elections. Obviously, we have a candidate. We believe he stands equally on equal footing with all the candidates of the other parties. And we believe that if given a chance, he will drive a process of change based on the philosophy of our party, as well as on the manifesto of bringing positive changes to our country. Well, so it should not surprise anybody that there are many candidates, and ultimately it is not done until it is done.
All right. As you said, in it for the long haul. But we'd like to thank you so much, Professor Tahiru Jega. Always a pleasure to speak with you, former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Thank you so much for your time on the program tonight.
Thank you so much, Coyote, for having me on your program. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you. So that's been the program for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Coyote Mikelu. Do have a fantastic night ahead.